Our scripture reading today comes from the book of Isaiah, chapter 12, verses 2 through 6, and it is a wonderful outpouring of thanksgiving. Surely the Lord is my salvation. I will trust. I will not be afraid. For the Lord God is my strength and my might. He has become my salvation. With joy you will draw water from the wells of salvation, and you will say in that day, give thanks to the Lord. Call on his name. Make known his deeds among nations. Proclaim that his name is exalted. Sing praises to the Lord, for he has done gloriously. Let this be known in all the earth. Shout aloud. Sing for joy, O royal Zion, for great in you, in your midst, is the Holy One of Israel. And God add his blessing to the reading of this word. Well, as I was thinking about Thanksgiving, as I was considering it, it dawned upon me that this year, this Thursday, will be my 45th Thanksgiving. 45 Thanksgivings. And boy, I kind of had to be reminded how long that is. If you, as some of you were present or were around at my first Thanksgiving in 1968, and you were watching television on that day, you might have seen our president, Lyndon Baines Johnson, receive his turkey from the National Poultry Association. In those days, presidents ate the turkeys that they received. They didn't pardon them. You might have also, if you continued watching television, watched the Macy's Day Parade and seen that a brand new balloon was premiering that year. It was Aviator Snoopy that was going down the streets in New York. You could have also continued watching and watched Dandy Don Meredith lead the Dallas Cowboys to a victory over the Washington Redskins. A lot of things have changed over 45 Thanksgivings. And think of it all. 45 turkeys, 45 pies, 45 opportunities to set aside one single day of my life in these 45 years to giving thanks, to being thankful. Well, let me submit to you that with my 45 Thanksgivings, I am an expert now on Thanksgiving. I know a thing or two about it. Let me submit to the court that I am an expert today, and I would like to speak about some of my Thanksgivings and what I have learned from them. Now, one thing I'd like to focus on is the hurdles that I've experienced. Now, there are often when we try to come to Thanksgiving in our lives, not just the Thanksgiving holidays, but feeling thankful in our hearts, there is something in our way. Something keeping us from being truly thankful. Let me think about that and ponder on that today. But first, come with me as I do this back to 1982. It was my 14th Thanksgiving back then. And I was spending it with my family in Kansas City. We had lived there for about 4 years. And I'll tell you, Kansas City was a wonderful place to spend Thanksgiving. We got some folks here from Missouri, and they will know that Missouri, during Thanksgiving season, the weather, the temperature's cold and crisp, the leaves have turned and they are starting to fall. It is a very Thanksgiving-y kind of place, just what you would imagine to be a great spot for Thanksgiving. Now, let me tell you, the years had gone by, those 14 Thanksgivings, and they had all pretty much, for me, been the same. The same thing, the same people in attendance. My mother, my father, my two brothers, my sister, and about every other year, my grandparents would come as well. But this was Thanksgiving 1982. And I didn't know it, and I didn't realize it, but everything was about to change. You see, my sister was about to be married. She would be married in a month. And the times when it was just the six of us for Thanksgiving would be over. All of those years, those 14 years of it just being the six of us, just being perhaps the 8 of us with my grandparents, those days were gone. Things were going to change. But I didn't know it. I didn't think about it. I didn't realize it. Because I was taking Thanksgiving for granted. I was taking the presence of my sister there on that Thanksgiving for granted, even though she wouldn't be there the following year away for Thanksgiving with her new in-laws. And even when we did all get together, it would never again just be the 6 of us. Always new people coming into the families, little ones being born, and all very happy and joyful about that. But I wish that in that moment, back in 1982, I would have savored it just a bit. I would have opened my eyes to the fact that I was taking for granted this little family. The way that Thanksgiving had been for 14 years and the way it would never quite be again. It is one of the obstacles to our Thanksgivings. We take those around us for granted. I was 14, and it's particularly true of the young, and perhaps they deserve it, being able to take things for granted a bit in their lives. Being young people, being children. But we know that we continue to do it as we grow older. Every year we sit around and we just assume that the next year we'll be gathered here with all of the same people. We'll be gathered here in this same place. But it may not be so. Changes come to us thick and fast in this world, and we must open our eyes to the abundance that is right there before us. Never get fooled into thinking that what you have today, you will have tomorrow. Open your eyes to it. Give thanks for it. Jesus did this. He reminded his disciples of this important fact when they went to Jerusalem and they marveled at the glories of the beautiful temple that had been built there that was just being completed. What a wonder it was. How important, how it stood at the center of all of the life of the Hebrew people. And Jesus told them, reminded them, even this great temple, even this wonderful place will not last. The time will come when not one stone will stand upon the other. Even this will go by. So don't fall for this obstacle to your Thanksgiving this year. Open your eyes, look around you, and see what is most important, those things that you are most likely to take for granted. Give thanks for each of them. Now let's move ahead 13 years to my 27th Thanksgiving. And there I was in 1995, a newly married young man. Leslie and I had married in May, and there we were spending our first Thanksgiving together. And for me, it was a Thanksgiving of change. For it was the first year I wouldn't be with my family for Thanksgiving. Mother, father, brothers, sisters. I was the one who was away now, and it was with Leslie's Thanksgiving, Leslie's family that we were celebrating that year. And let me tell you, I suppose it feels this way whenever you go to some place different for Thanksgiving. It felt strange. It felt a little odd to me. For Thanksgiving, for the cooks at that time, took place in Alvin, Texas, just south of Houston. And no cool, crisp air. It was 80 degrees and 80% humidity, too. And the leaves weren't falling. In fact, the lawn had to be mowed that day. You better watch out for the mosquitoes as well. Feeling like Thanksgiving? It didn't feel like Thanksgiving to me after what I had grown up with. And despite, of course, all the different family traditions to get used to, too. Despite the fact that it was warm outside, it was humid, their family tradition was to have a great bonfire. And so I remember sitting there on Thanksgiving Day back in 1995, sweating around a bonfire and missing my family, coping with this change that had occurred in my life, and feeling a little bit sorry for myself. I didn't like this. I liked the change. I was grateful to be married. I was so happy for that. In case you see Leslie later, you should tell her. But I was feeling a bit sorry for myself about not being where I thought I deserved to be. Sort of like the Hebrews out in the wilderness. God had freed them. They were where they were supposed to be, and yet they couldn't help but miss some of the life back in the civilization in Egypt. They couldn't help but feel a little bit angry about being deprived of that life. And it kept them from Thanksgiving, and it kept me from Thanksgiving back in 1995, and I'll tell you what it kept me from being thankful for. There I stood around that fire, sweating, feeling sorry for myself a bit. And there was Leslie's family. And they were offering me, in that moment, the most precious gift they could give me. A place among them. A place in their family. The most precious gift they could give. And I couldn't see it. And I couldn't give thanks for it. And friends, this happens so often in our lives. People offer us their very best gifts. But because it's not what we're used to, because it's not what we used to experience, we do not see it. We do not accept it. We certainly do not give thanks for it. Change comes, and it can be difficult. But with every change and with everything that we lose, we can gain something else. And so as this Thanksgiving approaches, I hope that you will keep your eye on that as well. Don't let the fact that someone is not present, someone is not there, keep you from being thankful. Don't let the fact that you're in the wrong place for Thanksgiving, or the weather's not the way you want, or the turkey's not cooked right, keep you from being thankful. Change comes. And we can be thankful even in the midst of it and give thanks for the precious gifts that people are offering us, even as we're experiencing that change. Well, let's move ahead one more time, and this last time. 11 years ahead to my 38th Thanksgiving, and there were no more debates in my little family about where to spend Thanksgiving on this year because my parents and my in-laws had both moved to the same town, the same city they were in, and we got to experience both Thanksgivings. There was one problem though. My family and Leslie's family both had the tradition of having Thanksgiving at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So there were some furious negotiations about that so that we could be at both dinners. And my parents were nice enough to move Thanksgiving from 2 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And the cooks were nice enough to move Thanksgiving from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And so there we had our 2 Thanksgiving meals that we could experience 2 hours apart from each other. Friends, this was my Thanksgiving of abundance. And believe it or not, it was the very abundance that I was experiencing that is keeping me from being thankful. 2 meals to enjoy, 8 desserts to choose from, 40 people to visit with, all on one Thanksgiving day. And there in the midst of all that abundance, my family, were feeling a bit overwhelmed. It is one of the strange laws, rules of humanity, that abundance doesn't necessarily make us more thankful. And it's something for us to remember. We who live in this country of great abundance, that it can actually be an obstacle to our Thanksgiving. We can actually have so much that once again people offer us their best gifts, and we turn our noses up to them because it's not quite what we're used to, what's available to us. And we have great abundance in our lives. We are a bit spoiled, or we can be. And we can let that keep us from being thankful. I saw a wonderful movie recently, a documentary called Simply Happy. And it was about happiness around the world and how Psychiatrists have found that some of the happiest people were the people with the least. And one of the people they focused on was a man who lived with his family in the slums in India. He drove a rickshaw, a pedaled rickshaw, that he would drive around the city for people, and that was his job. And his home was a bunch of crates and some tarps over the top. It was as small as you could be, everybody in one room. The kitchen right there in the center of everything. And this man was extremely happy. He felt blessed by his job. He felt blessed by his children who would be waiting to meet him. And he felt blessed that he had just about saved enough money to buy a new tarp so they could cover one wall of their house that had been exposed. That made him very happy. Here in our abundance, we should remember those things that are most important to us. We talked to the children today about the 10 lepers that Jesus healed, and perhaps that's what kept them away from Christ. That's what kept them away from thankfulness. So abundant. They couldn't see anybody. They couldn't go anywhere as lepers. And suddenly, now they can go anywhere. They can go to the temple. They can go to the synagogue. They can go to the market, see their family, see their friends. In the face of that abundance, they turn their back on being thankful. And so can we. And so as you sit down to your abundant dinner, as you sit down for some of us this week with family and friends, be sure to remember what is most important. And even too, as we sit down alone for Thanksgiving, let us be aware of the abundance that still exists in our lives. One thing I have learned throughout the years from Thanksgivings is that there often comes a roadblock to being thankful. And I know that's going to be true in the years to come. I know that there will be a year that comes where Elizabeth is away, or Will is away, perhaps with their new families, or perhaps living their lives in some other way, and they'll be gone from Thanksgiving for the first time in their life, away from their mom and dad. I know that it's very likely that someday a Thanksgiving will dawn where either Leslie or I will look across the table and the other will be gone. But I know even in the midst of these difficult times that can come, no matter what our Thanksgivings hold for us, no matter what each day of our life holds for us, we can be thankful. We can start and always start by remembering all we have to be thankful to God for in our lives. For creation, for the beauty of this earth, for friend and for family, for the abundance of this place that we live, and most of all, for God's Son, Jesus Christ, who, when you sum it all up, came to show us how much we are loved by God. How important it is for God to be close to us. And for Christ's great sacrifice that made that possible. When we keep those truths in our heart, when we are grateful for them, then all that else we have to be grateful for in our lives, truly grateful for, the most important parts of our lives, will come into sharp relief. We will see them, and we will be grateful for them as well. That is my prayer for all of us here today. That not just on this Thursday, but every day, we can wake up full of thanksgiving. Let us bow in prayer. Loving God, we do give thanks. We give thanks for the wonder of your creation. We give thanks for friends and family. We give thanks for your church. Loving God, we give thanks for your Son, Jesus Christ. And we give thanks for your great love for us. Lord, help us to be truly grateful and to make Thanksgiving a part of our lives every day.